We'll call the meeting to order. That was my first one. Right at 5:30. I need a roll call, please.
Mrs. Boley? Mr. Munoz? Dr. Bonebrake? Mrs. Schmidt? Dr. Schumacher? Mr. Tatum?
Here.
Dr. Beeson? Thank you.
Okay, up next, I'm looking for a motion to recess to executive session.
I move the Board of Education of USD 501 recess into executive session for 30 minutes pursuant to the personnel exception of the Kansas Open Meetings Act to discuss confidential personnel matters to protect the privacy of the individuals discussed. The board will return to open session in the boardroom at 6:01 p.m. The superintendent, executive staff, and Angel Simmons are invited into the executive session.
And I need a second. Ms. Boley, any other discussion? Okay, we'll look for a vote.
All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
I'm going to wait till 6:01 and 50 seconds. No. We are back from executive session, so we are going to move along, and we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and there are a lot of options for us to help with the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. And for our Pledge of Allegiance, would you mind helping us with the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you so much. All right, can we have everybody stand? Nothing like rolling in with Cap City, starting us off. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you share your name?
My name is Damian Thompson, and I'm from Cap City High School.
All right, that outstanding student, Mr. Thompson, you're going to see a video and hear a little bit about how incredible he is momentarily. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. So next we need to adopt the agenda, so I'll look for a motion
I move the board adopt the agenda as presented.
and a second. Ms. Boley, quick on the draw. Any further discussion? If not, I'll look for a vote.
Vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. And I will turn it back over to Dr. Anderson so we can learn a little bit more about Mr. Thompson.
Hello, I'm Damian Thompson. I'm a senior of Capital City Schools. Cap City intrigued me because of its size, both in students and teachers. I felt like I could get all of my hobbies and still get academic support.
Damien is very quiet, but yet he has a strong presence in the classroom, in the school. I think our smaller environment allows us to do a lot of different things.
He's a hardworking kid. He's been here ever since he's an 8th grader. He never misses school. He does what he's supposed to do in his classes. I can consider him a role model.
His interest is captured. His depth, how deep he'll go on a topic or a task, and his attention to the minute details is fascinating, and it's so creative and innovative.
I love working with my hands, and so culinary, woodshop, things like that keep my hands busy, and so they've helped me find who I am and how I can assist others.
I know he's a great guitar player. He loved the wood shop. Through that, he did an internship that he volunteered to do over the summer. The kids look up to him as a leader in the building.
I think we've helped him with the how to work through things, how to look in before going out, and we're just encouraging him and letting him know that we're here for him and we're always going to be there for him.
After high school, I've not really planned anything college-wise. Been considering more career-oriented items such as culinary.
He is really passionate about cooking. I know he wants to work in some restaurants. You know, I mean, he goes over to TCALC. He represents our school. He represents our students. He earned his Safe Serve with a really good high score. He's very passionate about that.
I think he has all the tools he needs to be successful, so I hope that he just uses them and finds whatever passion it is that he enjoys and can be successful after graduation.
When you find those times it gets tough, look in, try and elevate those around you, put them where they can be, because that's who he is. He is that good and that deep, and find a way to make it.
I feel that I've grown more personally. The people are really there for you, and I see that everything that I do here actually serves a purpose.
All right, Mr. Thompson, can you come on up, sir? And the certificate says you are our February Senior of the Month. It is an honor and privilege, sir, to meet you this evening. I know our board members are going to want to have some questions for you. And I believe Dr. Sheets might have a comment and or a gift for you as well.
From your Cap City family, Mr. Chavez, our wood shop teacher, made a special plaque for you as well to celebrate this.
That looks great.
They're probably gonna have a question or two for you, sir.
Congratulations, Damien. I'm gonna look to my other board members and see if there's some questions for you real quick. Yes, Mr. Tatum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Damien, it's really good to get to know a little bit more about you. I think that video, as short as it was pretty insightful for me to understand who you are kind of at a glance. And some of the things that I picked up from watching that video is that you're introspective, you think deeply about things, you have a desire to give back, and you're very creative. And I think someone mentioned at one point how passionate you are. And so my question for you is, often people who are innovative and creative and think deeply about different things that they are passionate about often have mentors or role models. So just kind of curious as to who some of those folks might be for you.
Well, I'm a little upset that he isn't here, but I can only really think of one man, and his name is Corey Fox. He's helped me a lot with my mentality and how I go about things.
Excellent. Know him well. Okay, very cool. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Munoz.
I know Mr. Fox very well, and I can certainly understand how he imprinted on you. Not only are there staff members and teachers who help sort of build you up, but I imagine you also have family who sort of been behind you the whole way. Wonder if you have anyone here you might want to point out to us.
My lovely mother. She's my mother's been there for everything, and she's helped me with anything I could ever ask for and more.
Well, thank you, Mom, for all your work.
Ms. Boley.
So watching you here this evening and watching your video, you present yourself so well. Has that been because your mother has taught you that, or has that come from school? You create a very impressive image of yourself.
That I can give some parts to my mother, but in most, I've done this all myself.
So you've been an old man forever?
Some could say I've lived many lives, yes.
Well, you just bring us so much pride. So we just appreciate everything that you've done for yourself and our staff has done for you. And we wish you all the best in your future. It's coming up very quickly. So congratulations to you for being nominated.
Dr. Beeson.
We're very excited to celebrate you this evening. Watching the video, a phrase came to mind, which is Renaissance man. Has anyone ever told you that's what you are?
A little bit of everything, yes.
Really powerful that your peers look up to you as a leader. I think that's a really big deal in high school especially, and that all these people recognize that about you. Can you tell us about your interest in culinary arts, where that began and how it developed?
When I was young, I used to always spend time in the kitchen helping my mother, and that kind of rubbed off on me as something that I really like to do.
Wondered if that might be the case. Well, how you speak about your mother says a lot about you as a human being. So congratulations.
Anybody? I will say, to wrap it up, I also thought Renaissance man as I was watching that video, and I think it was Mr. Wolf talked about looking within, and maybe some of those lives that you've lived, you looked within and gained some knowledge from that. And I think it's very exciting that hopefully you will carry on some of the legacy that your mom has instilled with you with culinary arts. And I can speak for all of us that we're happy to celebrate you today, and then we'll be excited to celebrate you again in May as you graduate. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you all.
All right, and we would ask that you stay for a few minutes because we'll get a photo with you and the board, sir. The Living the Dream recognition of student, staff, and the Food Drive Award recipients is next, and that's why you see so many young people in the audience. So I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Williams to share about the recognition, and he will call up the school that's here and the students. So Reverend Williams.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Thursday, everyone. Thank you. I am appearing this evening on behalf of Living the Dream. But first of all, I want to congratulate this young man. You got a good mentor. Corey Fox happens to be my cousin. So, Living the Dream about 8 years ago was made aware, actually it was Harriet Johnson, who's a retired 501 administrator, was made aware of Washington International students going without food to pay for books. So she approached me at the time and asked us if I would see if Topeka Public Schools would be interested in partnering with us for a food drive. And so this is our 8th year. And like Dr. King, I still got a dream. My dream is for every student, one can. We haven't gotten there yet, but we're making progress. And I hope this evening is a precursor for Sunday. Winston Elementary is being presented with this plaque for the school that collected the most items for 3 years in a row. So at this time, I would like to present to Ms. Pierce the traveling pack. Oh, there you go.
Hey, Ms. Pierce, do you have students with you?
I sure.
Can they all?
Then I'll,
All right, as Ms. Pierce gets ready to share.
and here's the certificate.
Let's give another applause for these quick students.
Good evening, Dr. Anderson and Board of Education members. And thank you, Reverend Williams. We are very excited to three-peat again and hope it is telling for Sunday. We've been talking about that. But really, it's not me. It is these kids, these teachers, and how they have all stepped up. And I want to introduce you all. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, but these are some students from Miss Lindell's 4th grade class, and their class alone earned over 700 cans just in their classroom. Okay. Step up and say.
My name is Aaliyah. My name is Daphne. My name is Julia.
My name is Jaden. And I'm Miss Lindell.
You hold this, and you hold this. Hey.
And the board may have a question or two of how you collect that many cans. We also have some wits and staff that are here for counseling as well. So this is a moment in which this three-peat, you get a chance to brag a little bit. So we'll turn it over to the board. If you have questions regarding Living the Dream and the Can Food Drive.
Any questions or comments from Dr. Beeson?
Hi, everyone. I'm curious, do you guys get competitive with your can collecting?
Well, I did hide $100.
Wait, what?
So every week, we turned in our collection. And at the very beginning, the very first day, one of my students brought in $60. So I said to him, I'm like, okay, all right, if we keep this up, I will match you. So, towards the, and then I did actually let our Stuco gal that represents us, I did let her know that we had the money, and she was like, yeah, this will be fun. So then he again was, well, we challenged the students to have 5. They had to bring in 5 cans. Okay, not 1, 5. So for our class, I said, everybody just bring in 5. And we broke it down. We're doing fractions. And so we broke it down and we figured out how much that would be. And then they doubled our money. So 1 can, if you brought in money, you got counted for 2. So everyone was like going home, and one of my students' mom was like, he was asking every night to text his peers to remind them to bring their cans and or, donations. And so I just think that that shows, again, I mean, I'm certainly going to brag because they're mine. But the community service that our 2 Stuco, because again, that's who's representing here. One of them went out on Facebook and she made a little ad for it. And then the other one went through his church and family to collect. And I just think that that is very community service oriented. So, and that's what we want. That's what we're trying to raise. So.
I see a student is about to come up to the microphone. Anything that you'd like to say about collecting cans, why you do it? Is it fun? Is it competitive? Anything that you'd like to say?
It's kind of like competitive, like because of how, like, it's kind of like a competition, kind of.
I was encouraging her as one of our student council representatives, as well as Jaden, to share what they then got to do with the monetary donations. They then got to take that money and go on a little trip, and our student council representatives, along with the sponsors, got to go to Aldi and use that money that was raised to buy more items to then serve our community. And so Aaliyah got to go on that.
And then Jaden, what does Mrs. Pierce have to do for us? Because
Give us a pizza party.
little incentive.
Other, Ms. Boley, did you comment?
So I heard Reverend Williams say that he's trying to make this district-wide where everybody brings a can because that would be so powerful. So as a student council, is there any way that you might be able to help the rest of our district, be that example for them to help create that excitement that you have at your building? I think it's a tough question at this minute, but it might be something as a student council you can think about. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. So, but you have, this is your 3-peat. You all are doing something really right. Maybe that could be shared with some other, make some visits to some other student councils and talk to them about your success in your building and share your genius with them. That would be great.
Any other burning comments from our students? We know you're so eager to share. Let's give them another applause.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment, Reverend Williams?
Was there a video presentation or what?
Going back to our school.
I think there was a video presentation of the, there it is. List of our community award recipients, as well as our scholarship and poetry, essay, and art competition. And again, we want to thank Topeka Public Schools for helping us eradicate this problem of food insecurity in the Topeka community.
Thank you, Reverend Williams.
All right, and our final recognition, and that was powerful. So thank you to our students and the Whitson Warriors that are really meeting the challenge. Speaking into the Super Bowl game, the three-peat this weekend. The final item are our incredible counselors. So you'll see them on TV tonight. The media was here because they are just that amazing. During Counselor Appreciation Week, we're probably the only school district that they've come to. Of course, we have the State Counselor of the Year here in Topeka, only in Topeka. So we're going to ask Dr. Grimes to come up and she'll introduce who's with us. And as she comes up, a video will be playing acknowledging our counselors.
The role of the elementary school counselor is so dynamic because we're working directly with students, but we're also working with educators, we're working with families, we're collaborating with community resources to be able to develop and implement programs and services that can best support all of our students in our schools.
It's unpredictable every day. You come in with a plan about what you need to get done, but that could change right when you walk in the door. The students at this level are always in need of emotional support to guide them to make the right decisions outside of school, but also help them deal with those things and cope with those things so they can still have an effective day.
One day I may be working with a student on personal social. 15 minutes later, I might be working with a student on a career goal. Right now, we're working on getting students into high school. That's a really big push for us. The students and the parents are really great. I love working with them.
The joy in being a school counselor, especially a high school counselor, is seeing kids grow, progress in their 4 years with us. Our students, it's great because you kind of see them more from these ninth graders who are still trying to figure things out to crossing that graduation stage and having legitimate plans.
For a lot of these students, they're, the first in their family or the oldest in their family to take the next steps to go to college. One of the biggest events that we organize and plan is called Apply Kansas, which is through the Kansas Board of Regents. There were also a couple of days in November that we highly advertised and allowed space and time for students to fill out Kansas college applications for free.
Huge part of my job is ensuring that kids have a sense of belonging in their school environment. But our main job is to be the cheerleader for the kids, be the cheerleader for the staff, be the cheerleader for the parents. And every kid needs to remember how awesome they are, even when their day isn't so awesome. There's something awesome in every day.
Don't forget to be awesome!
Communications team nailed it, I think. They are awesome. I will tell you, if you think of everything that goes into developing our students from the time they're in kindergarten, learn how to walk in a straight line, to the time that they graduate and beyond, past that. Once they're out of our doors, what are they doing? How do they get there? What are the support they need? Counselors have a role in that. Everything from social, emotional development to academic achievement to college career readiness to career development. They're there behind the scenes, in the front lines. They do it all. I've got 3 counselors with me now, kind of representing each building level because each counselor at the building level does a little bit different and their focus is a little bit different. So I'm going to have them come up. And I'm Mallory Jacobs, elementary. Jean Ryan is our middle school rep, and Brooke Mulford, who loves being in front of the camera, is our high school rep.
You all come right on it. No, okay. And the board may have some questions.
Yeah, questions or comments? Ms. Boley.
Miss Ryan, would you come up to the microphone first?
Sure.
So I was at a play production at your building. And at the end, you asked each of the students to speak about their favorite part of French Elementary.
Middle school.
Middle school. Sorry. Yes. Thank you for clearing that up at the middle school. And every single one of those students called you out of how you, I'm sorry, how you have changed their life. They said they would have never been on that stage because you gave them the confidence to do that. but every single one of those students, and that has just stayed in my head. And so I thank you for changing each of their lives because they stated loud and proud how you had changed their life. So thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Beeson gets to follow that up. Sorry.
Here's giving me side eye. I'm not sure if I could do it. I wanted to say, kind of to echo Miss Bully, that I think school counselors are some of our most important educators in every building. I think the first time I went to one of mine was in the 7th grade, and it was an introduction to my mental health and understanding sort of my feelings and my struggles and advocating for myself. Miss Jacobs and Miss Ridley in Jersey are so important to my girls. You have these huge jobs, I think, to teach so much to all students in your buildings. Skills that I'm so grateful are prioritized today in ways that they weren't before. My own children talk about the warrior way all the time, and they use it on each other like, you're not displaying the warrior way at home. But also a lot of self-reflection and self-talk that I know I was not displaying at that age, and I wish it was coming from me, but I think it's coming from you all. So I agree that you do change students' lives. I will never forget my school counselors, and I think the work you do really sets these kids up to grow up to be self-advocates and invested in mental and emotional health. And we need that so much in our society. So thank you for dedicating your lives to this work. Really important.
Anything else on the board? I would just say I think I would agree that the communications team did a great job. And I was thinking it's like, these kids are seeds that we're planting, and we're not just providing the water and the soil and that stuff, but you guys are teaching them how to grow, providing that resilience so that they can withstand hard times and do hard things. And I don't even know if I knew a school counselor existed when I was in school, but the way that we are proactive in our district, all my kids know who their counselors are, and that's a wonderful thing. So I think from all of us, we just say thank you.
And we want to thank all of you. I mentioned in the video where I talked about I'm a cheerleader. You guys are our cheerleader. Dr. Anderson, Dr. Grimes, our administrators. It's not like this everywhere. And so as elementary, we get to go into the classrooms, we get to be out and about, and I know that other levels get to do their job as well. So thank you for letting us do our job. So thank you.
And on that wonderful note, we thank our school counselors and our staff for all of the support that they give to our students. At this time, we'd like to take a 5-minute break and have photos. We'll start with our senior of the month to come on up, followed by the Whitson Warriors and Living the Dream team, and then followed by our counselors. So Mom, did you want to come on up with your son? City, would you like to come on up? Woo!
Combining the last 3 years of interviews. Yeah, I combined the last 3 years of interviews. I didn't do your interview, but I didn't know it. Next year. Maybe next year.
And Rose wanted to do it, so I was like, okay.
Oh, no, you told Rose. You told Rose to do it. Okay.
Okay. Next we have public comments. Ms. Lister? No comments. So we will move to business by consent, and I'll be looking for a motion.
Well, I have a motion. I would like to move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Tatum? Any discussion on the items? See none, we can move to a vote.
Thank you. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimous.
Great. Next up, we have the superintendent's report.
As I prepare to share the report, I do want to acknowledge some administrators that were just approved under consent under the personnel report. If I could just briefly ask for our amazing Landon principal, who's been serving as an interim, who is now just approved as the permanent principal. Ms. Wagner, can you come to the microphone? And she will introduce the new assistant principal for next year for Landon and share a little bit about our new leader.
Hi, good evening. I'm excited to be here. You can hear me? There we go. Super excited to be here. The most proud person ever to be named the new head principal at Landon. I have thoroughly enjoyed this school year. Becoming a Lancer, staff are fantastic. Our students are fantastic. Our parents, our community. I really couldn't ask to be in a better place. So I am very thankful to be able to continue in this role. And I'm very excited to introduce Eric Rodriguez, who will serve as my assistant at Landon next year. Mr. Rodriguez, I like to joke because I was at French Middle School before my time here. And Mrs. Hoffman and I tried to hire Mr. Rodriguez as a math teacher 4 years ago. I knew I liked him 4 years ago. And so when he came back around for this opportunity, I knew I was still going to like him. And even more so with just his excitement and his passion to help support our dual language program and really just be another positive role model that we'll have in our building. So, Mr. Rodriguez, I will let you speak or answer any questions they may have for you.
Hello. I'm excited. I'm super excited. I grew up in dual language, so this is a great opportunity for me. And I absolutely love being a Latino. It's a huge part of what I am. Love the culture. So hopefully building that culture up at Landon will be a great part of me. Thankful for the opportunity.
And Mr. Rodriguez is currently at Jardine Middle, and he is known for his math expertise in particular. So the bilingual math component that we've needed, we're excited to have that and just excited to promote internally. So wanted to take a moment to mention those two individuals. And if you have questions for either one of them, we're talking this evening about our discussion topics, board goals, but academic achievement. So it's kind of perfect to stop for this moment if you do have a question. I will mention the other person, which I believe he's at a Topeka West event, Mr. Wild. He was approved as the Cap City principal for next year. He's currently the assistant principal, another internal promotion. He is currently the assistant principal at Topeka West, formerly the principal at a neighboring school district, and joined us last year. So we're excited about that. I'll turn it over to the board if there's a question or two for either of our Landon Lancers.
Any questions on the board? Ms. Bully.
So I am assuming you've had an opportunity to look at our bilingual education piece, and it's kind of a block in that school. Not every student is in that program. Do you have any thoughts of where you want to take that program next? What What sparked you and what were your thoughts as you were thinking about it?
So I know the program uses Gomez and Gomez. I wasn't really shown anything else other than that. I've been communicating with Ms. Wagner more frequently recently and trying to figure out what we can do to collaborate to fill in and make sure everyone's great and then make sure those students excel every year from here on out. Make sure those scores grow every year and from here as well.
And Ms. Wagner, do you want to add to that, having just come back from the Gomez and Gomez training?
Yes, that was the most amazing experience. And I got to follow that with the AMLE conference, national conference in Nashville. So I got to go to South Padre. I know it was rough for the Gomez and Gomez, but
What's AMLE?
AMLE is the American Middle Level Educator Conference, which again, I brought back just so many ideas. My staff was kind of like, I'm just excited. But I was really given a better picture of the Gomez and Gomez model and what needs to happen at Landon to strengthen and sustain that model. And, one of our places that we do need to make improvements on is hiring dual language math teachers. We don't have that right now, and that is definitely an area that is Mr. Rodriguez and I's focus. I'm asking him who he knows that he might be able to bring in. I'm communicating with some others to see if we can get something put together to sustain and continue that program at Landon.
Thank you. I think that boost in the education that you both have for that program will really strengthen it. And I'm very excited about that. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Munoz?
Not a question, just a comment that I'm really happy for you all to be in this position. There's a lot of opportunity there at Landon, especially for our dual language program. And so we've heard from parents, or I have, about the desire to see more and to do. And so I look forward to what comes out of Landon. Congrats.
Thank you.
Again, thank you both.
Congratulations.
That leads us right into our strategic planning conversation and setting up matters for the year. The slide that you are preparing to see is a follow-up from our draft goals that we've talked about. It's a little small. Really meant for you to also give feedback in our discussion. In the document that's on the screen, and these are literally just draft notes, but the goal will be in this session to reflect on where in the strategic plan, for those that are watching, if it's easy to go to the strategic plan on our website, if that's a challenge, then don't worry about that. But for those that are watching, our strategic plan is on our website. You can go there, and when you go to the strategic plan, you're going to see different areas. So like number one says academic achievement. And one of the goals that you as a board talked about was academic achievement and having that as an area that you'd like to see some measurable movement on. And so that measurable movement from what we thought we heard you say is listed below. As we share what that goal is, then if you'd like to make some changes and wordsmith that, this is a great time to do that. That very first one, did you find the strategic plan on the website? Those that are following along, if you end up going to the strategic plan on our website, on the front page, you'll see a little marker that says strategic plan. So as Mr. Reinert, and thank you so much, clicks on strategic plan, it's under superintendent. I believe it's also under board. You can click on the current year and you can go straight there and you'll go down and scroll and see the various goals in our strategic plan. So what we've done on this document, which Dr. Schumacher suggested that we take the actual goal and objective and put it on that document. So just a few minutes ago, we went and copied that as well. So the pillars, student learning, effective staff, district finance, those are all of our pillars. School climate and equity, career preparation is that final, and college readiness is that final pillar. Now that everyone that's watching knows where to find this document and to follow along, we're going to go back to the document that you have in your hand. The document that you have, as we pull that up, the very first one, student achievement, you'll see that the strategic plan, it's under academic achievement. Objective 1.1 in the strategic plan references state level assessments. And the verbiage in the strategic plan is performance on state level assessments will increase to meet or exceed state standards. So the measurable goal that you all talked about was moving students out of level 1. So the measurement that's added there is a 5% measurement of moving students out of level 1. And then in talking to Dr. Schumacher, referencing the assessment that we're talking about. So in this case, it's the CAP assessment, which primarily elementary and middle focus on that. The next goal is a secondary one that's an assessment related to career readiness. But I'm going to stop with this very first one. Does that goal capture for this calendar year something that you'd like for us to focus on? Or would you like to tweak it?
Yeah, Mr. Munoz.
How did we come to that 5%? My concern is one that we have high goals, but something that's attainable, but then not too far, because we know that we have such a high goal, we set ourselves up for, the burden on our teachers and obviously on you to demonstrate that. So how do we get to 5, and does it have a little bit of push
And
on us?
let me see if Dr. Kip's in this space at all. And he can talk about what statistically significant the various levels are.
That'd be great.
We have in the past focused on moving students in the level 2, 3, and 4, because 2 is on grade level. But I think your conversation was, while we're moving students to 2, 3, and 4, and we get new students in, you want us to move students as well, out of level 1. Now, we know our mobility rate at many of our schools it's over 50%. At many of our East Topeka schools, Ross, Williams, many of our schools in general, but particularly those in East Topeka. And so with that mobility rate of being 50% or more, not really knowing where students are when they enter that level 1, what we can commit to is sharing 5%. Now, we can certainly have a goal higher than that, but Dr. Kipp will talk about what is statistically significant.
I think 5% at a district level is actually a pretty robust goal. If you think about graduation rates, they don't really fluctuate 5%, 10%. You look at the state goals, they're moving their graduation rates at 1 to 3%. So when you start getting at that level, it may seem like a low number, but we're talking, 5% of 13,000 kids. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and it doesn't seem low to me. I want to make sure that it's enough of a goal to where it pushes us to sort of reach, but not too high that it's just out. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Now, in this goal, we reference level 1 because that's really what you all talked about at this time. But is there feedback related to this goal that you'd like to mention for us to continue to tweak this and prepare it for this calendar year? All right, we're going to move to this next goal. The next goal is also academic achievement, but it's really focused on the career readiness. So on those pillars we looked at a minute ago, there was an area called college and career readiness. So this falls into the secondary component. And the comment in the strategic plan, if you go to the website and you're watching, it's to evaluate all CTE pathways. It talks about enhancing and expanding and identifying new pathways to prepare students to be successful graduates and aligning that with local, state, and career workforce needs. Now, with that information, your board goal from what you talked about was to increase CTE pathways by adding 1 new CTE pathway this upcoming year, this 2025 year, and aligning that with the industry credentials and increasing CTE enrollment by 10% across the district. Now, that is rather a large enrollment increase, but we believe that with adding a new pathway, and then some of our new programs, such as our teacher apprenticeship program, Ms. Wallace has a PowerPoint to talk about that a little bit. By doing some things differently, we may be able to get more students into some career industry credentialing before they graduate beyond where we are now. First of all, does this capture well what you'd like to see as it relates to CTE as a goal for this upcoming year, and any adjustment that you'd like to see? Not seeing any adjustment, we're going to go on to the next goal. Our next goal, now keep in mind, this is what leadership team and principals will be working on over the course of the year, in addition to the things they continuously work on. The other one was school climate. Under school climate, in our strategic plan, under objective 4.1, it says student well-being. And the particular comment is that the percentage of students who report that Topeka Public Schools is meeting their needs and sense of belonging, student voice, and creating a safe and caring place will increase annually. That's your general statement in the strategic plan. So your goal as a board for this year, tied to that particular area, is really focused on social emotional health. And specifically, some of our board members really wanted to evaluate the mental health mentors and the measures we put in place and to know, did they work? So the goal that we have offered here is to implement an assessment tool to assess the impact of mental health mentors across the district using the student risk screening scale, with a goal of decreasing the risk for internalizing and externalizing behaviors by 5%. Now, we specifically reference mental health mentors because that's one thing that came up, but we could say mental health mentors and mental health services because we've expanded that as well, if you'd like. Any feedback on that goal? And
Sorry, I was digesting. Dr. Beeson.
That was going to be part of my feedback, was just sort of wondering if we maybe don't want to single out mental health mentors as sort of what we're correlating the results to, but that it's a
mental health services?
Yeah, something
or supports?
more general, because it's so well integrated into everything throughout the school day also, but having that as a goal, I think, would be really valuable.
All right, so we'll make that adjustment. As we heard from our counselors today, which aren't mentioned in this goal, but they certainly have services and have expanded. So we'll make that adjustment.
Ms. Schmidt.
I'm just curious, it says that we're going to do at-risk screening or an assessment tool. Have we identified what that tool is and like where we're starting so that we know what 5% is? I think that's one of the things I'd love to see us as a board on our goals, is having some that we're doing year over year over year. So historically, I'll use a previous employer as an example. You know, we'd measure something and we were at 75%, and it was a goal that we want everybody to be at 85% at that. So we'd pick 2 or 3 things to focus on, and then we're measuring that. We're asking that same question the next year to see if we've moved the marker. And if we have, then we know we can continue to do more of what we're doing. If the marker's not moving or it's going the wrong direction, we know we could identify that we're looking at the wrong or trying to tweak the wrong things. So I'm just thinking of that as specifically as I look at this goal.
Definitely. I'll turn it over to Ms. Kramer, Ms. Stacy Kramer, to talk a little bit about that tool, which the question was, have we identified the tool and do we know where we are now to be able to address the 5% goal?
Absolutely. So this is part of our CI3T framework. We screen for students for both externalizing and internalizing behavior 3 times a year. So we are examining this data already. So it's easily assessed. Dr. Kipp and his department help us give that information back to the schools regularly. So it's already part of our lexicon.
And would 5% be an adequate number, and we know what the number is now?
Yes, we do. I don't have it off the top of my head, but we can certainly get you a follow-up. We have a summary report that we do every year.
Thank you. So for all of these goals where you see 10%, 5%, 3%, then the follow-up to this is, hey, this is what we're focusing on. Leadership team, now let's look at where are we now? Where are the midpoint ranges that we need to be, 4 months from now, and then 4 months from that. And then we bring that back to you. And at the very end of the year, for my evaluation, here's where we're now, and here's where we are now later. And thank you all for the feedback and the data-driven suggested path to really assess where we need to be. The very next goal is about highly effective staff. As we scroll down, that highly effective staff piece is really focused on recruitment and retention. And in the strategic plan, it says to initially develop and implement systematic methods that improve the district's ability to recruit, retain highly effective workforce. You as a board talked about specific areas that you want us to focus on. One was bilingual staff. So it was so perfect to have Mr. Rodriguez here and other staff members, but increasing the recruitment and retention for bilingual staff by 5%. So again, Human Resources will look at how many staff members do we have now? You all will get a chance to see that, and then we'll move from there in terms of what is 5%, where are we trying to go? And it'll help us be very focused in that number. The other one is a second goal under that goal that came from another board member as well. We're doing a compensation study. So it was to continue to take actionable steps on 5, and I'm sorry, the compensation study is actually under finance. This one is, I think Mr. Tatum talked about actionable steps under our past survey. So we picked 5. There's nothing special about 5 other than we felt like anything beyond 3 to 5 additional actionable steps on top of what we've taken already might be, a bit cumbersome, but 5 recruitment and retention actionable steps from our surveys and implementing those this upcoming year. So once we get all that survey data back and using the survey from KSB, we'll pick 5 additional steps. Like, for example, one of the steps was to implement the survey, which we now have through Epic with Dr. Church. That was one of those actionable steps. We're doing it right now. He's going to have additional actionable steps that teachers say we should do. So we're going to ask those teams, those champion teams, give us 5 things you really want us to do this year and do well. So we will be bringing those back to you to implement that. Any changes or suggestions on that goal?
Mr. Tatum.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Anderson, for kind of breaking that down. I wanted to be sure I'm tracking, sufficiently with this particular action item or goal. So out of all of the surveys that the district has overseen over the recent past, Dr. Church's survey, KASB, et cetera, you're looking at taking 5 goals from that collected group taking 5 survey items from that collected group and turning them into 5 separate goals under this category.
Yeah, well, we're looking at 5, and there are many things under both of those surveys, but 5 of the recruitment and retention things that they say we should do to recruit and retain staff. We need to take 5 of those things and do those this year. And they may say other things to do to further enhance what we're doing as a district and to meet student needs. But 5 things just focused on recruitment and retention. We're going to ask the district to identify what those 5 actionable steps are. The wonderful thing are those actionable steps are very specific. I mean, some of them are things like increased pay. Some of them are things such as, highlight staff in a particular way, include staff on certain committees. But 5 actionable things that we can do that immediately we're saying that we want to commit to doing that in follow up to the surveys that have been done. And we could pick another number, but we know some of the 5 items might be rather large. But we'll be bringing those back to you and seeing if those are the 5 that you'd like us to focus on.
I think you read my mind. As far as the number is concerned, I think 5 is reasonable. I think that the board would probably like to help collaborate on that process.
What those 5 are.
Determining what those 5 areas are.
Right. And one of the things I'm hoping to do is in the 2-to-1 and 1-to-1 meetings to really say, hey, here's a reminder. Here are these different surveys. Here's some of the things that the team highlighted. What do you want to see us really sink our teeth into? So this is an ongoing conversation. The overall goal that, hey, we're going to focus on 5 things, that at least lets us know that's something we need to do. what the 5 things are and what that looks like, or what the numbers are for the mental health item, that's a level of specificity beyond even this meeting. So this is an ongoing conversation. And that'll likely be one of the work session items we bring back to you as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And thank you for the goal in this space.
Dr. Beeson.
I just had a quick question. Do we talk about these different surveys. Is there one survey that we're sort of administering annually to all teaching staff so that this could be sort of a longitudinal item where year over year we're seeing like, are we improving morale and satisfaction and things like that?
Dr. Kip, do you want to speak to the surveys? I can answer it, but since I have a whole team here and want to bring their
Thank
voice
you.
in this space, and he's demographics and assessment, and you're asking about surveys. So do we give any survey annually or every other year to be able to monitor this?
Yes, we give the 360 feedback survey. We survey parents, staff, and students. And that provides a year-to-year kind of comparison on what themes we see, what changes. I will speak to Dr. Church's work that those 5 things are kind of determined on the drivers. He uses that word drivers, and based on the focus groups and all that, we may have drivers that are idiosyncratic to our district that maybe in Wichita, they might have different drivers. So I think that's an important nuance to understand when he comes up and presents these drivers or focus areas. So, but yeah, we can certainly do longitudinal work. You bet.
Right, those were the areas the board really focused on. Now, you may remember we're going to add, now normally you ask me to have 3 to 5 goals, so this is clearly beyond 3 to 5, but we do feel comfortable with what we have here. The final 2 areas, so there's still a few more areas that we added. What you don't see up here are remember I mentioned accreditation? We will be adding a goal in terms of some movement we want to make towards accreditation. This other one that you do have listed, however, number 5, so there'll be a 6th accreditation one. But number 5 is finance. And in the area of finance, you have talked about, first of all, in the strategic plan, under objective 3.2, it says apply a cost analysis model to the budget process, or apply a cost analysis process to the budget process. The goal is really increasing salaries for bilingual staff and classified operational staff is a goal that you've shared. Now, not knowing what the future holds and how much we can do and what that looks like, that's listed as the goal in the manner that you shared it. Now, really, Mr. Minke is the best person to help go through what we can do and what that looks like. But that goal was elaborated on by a board member in terms of really having 3 actionable steps from the compensation market study. You may remember we're doing that right now. So when we get that study back, to have 3 actionable steps. Dr. Schumacher spoke about making sure there's something actionable from that. So that's listed as well. And again, we don't have that study, so we couldn't tell you what those 3 things are just yet. And Mr. Minke would be the best person on salaries and what's possible. Does this capture the conversations that you all have had over a couple of meetings in terms of goals for this year that I and leadership team will focus on?
Dr. Bonebreak had a comment, I believe, potentially.
With the legislature's continued attitude of trying to destroy public education, I'm just not sure that we're able to fiscally improve the situation of our staff, but we ought to be able to make their lives easier. And I'm not sure where cell phones has entered, but I think with the Six Sigma plan, it's right there up at the top. For example, France does not allow cell phones in their schools at all. In Germany, they can have a cell phone for 1 hour in one room. All students, if they have to have a call, they can, that 1 hour, they can go in that one space. We didn't have the mental health issues before cell phones were introduced. And I just think we need to be more, as I know between classes, it's still a problem. students are still late to class because they're still on their cell phones. I think that needs to be part of our process. And we've made our baby steps, but I think we need a bell-to-bell exclusion.
Yeah, and you mentioned that and doing the goals, and you might remember, and Ms. Schmidt said that's a policy piece. And so we listed it as a goal at first, but since it is a policy piece, that's a perfect segue to our work sessions. So there's 7 topics that you can pick for work sessions if you use the model of a work session, the second meeting of every month. This would be something that you talk about, you all are deciding on, policy committee may be working on cell phones. But then there may be things that you want presented. Would cell phones be one of those board work sessions where you're leaving that work session saying, we want to see this done? Or, you want some things addressed, and that might help drive the policy committee on presenting at that work session.
Yeah, Ms. Schmidt.
I was just going to say, in the interest of using data, to drive what we're doing, I know that we got feedback from a teacher not long after we instituted the policy, and they said, while this has been a step in the right direction, bell to bell, they feel like, because it's kind of just shifted where the issues are happening, not so much in the classroom now, more into the halls. Kids being late getting to class because they want to stay out and finish texting. So I think it would be a good opportunity to have a work session. I would love to have people here that deal with it from day to day. So teachers, people in the schools that could give us some feedback and possibly help us. I know Ms. Boley was on the state school board piece, and she can speak to that from that perspective, but I think we need to be making decisions based on data. And so bringing some of that data in as we look at that.
Perfect. And it's interesting because we have a member of our K-State, one of our aspiring leaders who I know is eager to take on a project like that. And I'm kind of teasing you back there. But since we do have a variety of folks in our Land and Lancers that are here, we'll look to our principals, and we meet with them next week. And so we'll ask our principals as a whole, and Ms. Wallace will ask K-State team. That would be exciting to have teachers in that space, as you mentioned that, in addition to administration bringing some items. So we'll list that as a work session. I presume you'd like cell phone, because that's a policy. If you all tell us to do it, then that's what we do. So then cell phone, I assume you want that work session before the end of this school year.
I think so. It
Yeah.
would do us well to be able to communicate that to students and parents and families and staff ahead of time, and be able to have the opportunity as we have open houses or even as enrollment starts, or tickers on the web pages to start communicating that expectation if the policy changes.
Okay. And as Ms. Wallace is taking notes, I'll just offer that April may be the date for that, so that you have it before the end of this school year, but you have enough time for people to bring data in for the various teams to pull that together. And then Ms. Wagner, if you bring the voice to the principal meeting at the next principal's meeting, that would be great to kind of kickstart who wants to be part of that. We'll turn it back on over to another work session. So that's one. We need 7.
Ms. Boley. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Please do.
Just make sure your microphone's on. Make sure your microphone's on when you step back. There we go.
Okay, so beep, beep, beep. So I know that our early childhood program is really important, but I feel like you have enough goals, but I'm assuming you're still going to be very focused on our early childhood programs, preschool, all of that.
Absolutely. You mentioned 3 goals. You had college and career readiness, you had moving kids out of level 1, you had early childhood. You had 3 goals all by yourself. And early childhood is important. Here's what we know. We know that the funding for preschool, Head Start, federal funding, all of that will impact what we can do and how many people we can serve. So it will absolutely remain a focus. We're one of few districts that has full day early childhood that has expanded every year. We are already talking about a unique idea to expand for next year. in a creative way. So while it's may or may not be listed as a goal, it certainly will be something, an initiative that we continue to move forward on. If we don't have the funding for that, then we'll adjust, but knowing that that's an area of focus. Thank you for mentioning that. Work sessions. I'm going to open this up, turn it over to the board. What other work sessions would you like?
Yeah, Ms. Schmidt.
I think safety is one that we need to talk about. So it'd just be really interesting. I know we can collaborate with some other partners within the city, law enforcement, and just love to hear from Chief about some opportunities he thinks might exist around the district to keep our students and our staff as safe as possible.
Okay, so safety being one, and then we'll pick the month that might naturally fall into. Other, we need 5 more.
Ms. Bowley.
Okay, so circling back to our dual language, going all the way through and seeing the progress that we've made there, I think, adding a really strong piece there at the middle school. So I would think dual language would be a good one. We talked earlier in the year about a new welcoming center at Highland Park High School. And as that gets off the ground, maybe having some information on that. And of course, Dr. Church's survey information to help guide the board as we make other goals in the following year.
So recruitment and retention, I'm hearing under that climate piece, which is perhaps the welcome piece at Highland Park. I'll have to remind myself what that one was, but recruitment and retention.
With students coming to us, our migrant students. Yeah,
Our newcomer program.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I just named it incorrectly.
So no, absolutely. No, so with that, we'll add that as a goal if it pleases the board on the all of those. So the other item in terms of our work session, the bilingual piece, we have Gomez and Gomez coming on February 28th. At the end of this month, but we'll look at another time when he's coming so he can really look at what's going on in all 3 schools. He hasn't been back for the last year. And we'll list that. Now, if you have more than 7, then I'm going to just share it with the board, send the email and say, here are the 10 or 12. What 7 do you want? But this gives you deep conversation on all of these areas.
Mr. Munoz.
Oh, and finance, I'm sorry, that is a goal that we've already added on. I believe we put it as June because at the retreat, you said you'd like to do this again. And so that we put that as a topic for June already.
For me, absenteeism, it's a huge problem, in our schools, and it has an impact for kids that follows them throughout their school career. So absenteeism and the multifaceted, looking at it from different perspectives, what do we need to do in order to engage parents and create good habits early on, and how does it impact our students throughout their career with us? So.
Okay, so we'll add that as a work session possibility as well.
Ms. Schmidt.
Just to build onto the bilingual piece, last year, I think we looked at like bilingual paras, bilingual speaking staff in each school as compared to the number of students where maybe English wasn't their first language. So I don't know if we can kind of build in and look at that again to see if we're fulfilling those needs where we have the highest need being there. Because like I know Highland Park, I think had a lot of bilingual, but we didn't have very many bilingual staff. And so then it was causing the few that were there, even though it wasn't part of their position, we were pulling them to do other things. And so just identifying those schools that have the largest need and making sure that we're prioritizing those positions to be filled.
Right, and I'm hearing the data-driven piece around what those numbers are in the various schools. So we'll add that to the bilingual work session. I believe we've hit 7, but are there others that you'd like for us to dive into? And if not, then we'll list these out. Technology offered a work session should there be an opportunity, but you have a technology committee. So once this 7 is listed from what you shared tonight, then if there's space, we'll fill in other items. And if not, again, you have your committee work where this occurs.
Yeah.
The next professional development day, Mrs. Wallace, is which day?
April 28th is a district, all staff professional development day.
So on that day, for those that are on strategic planning committees, we often will have a committee meeting either at lunch or at the end of the day for those that are on. Not all of you are on a strategic planning committee, but for those that are on that, Ms. Wallace will send information out so that you can join that and have discussion about that particular strategic plan area. That really concludes the work session board goals that we want to bring to the space.
Mr. Tatum, but I'm going to say one thing
Go ahead.
real quick because I can.
'Cause you can.
We also discussed, Dr. Anderson, before tonight's meeting, potentially thinking about trying to get to a school again to have a board meeting, another location offsite, and that was something we were going to throw around during this time as well. So thinking about potentially somewhere to go and when to go for a future board meeting over this year.
And the last one was at Ross. If you remember, we had that in the community. In the past, prior to this board, I believe we've been at a few different school sites. If we're talking about CTE, TCALC is an area. Dr. Schumacher and I talked about Williams being a place that not everybody has been to as we continue to look at what's going on in East Topeka, some of our highest poverty, highest mobility. And I believe Williams is the highest mobility, or certainly one of the top 4 schools. So is there a particular school that you would like for us to plan a board meeting at in the 2025 calendar year? HPC? Highland Park Central. That's a very small school, which would be a wonderful opportunity to see many of our Filipino teachers there as well. So any other school that you'd like for us to give consideration to? We will connect with HPC leadership and plan accordingly and ask her what month works best for her. Thank you.
Mr. Tatum.
Okay, thank you. I just was going to circle back around to the idea of doing a work session centered around technology. I think there might be some feasibility for talking about some technology-related issues and kind of dovetail that into the session on safety. There are things like cybersecurity that could be talked about in tandem. And for those of us that aren't on the technology committee, we're not always knowledgeable about everything that's discussed in that committee. So this would be a good way to kind of bring us on board with some of the broader issues that are happening with the technology committee as well.
Thank you, sir. We'll attach that to safety or cell phone, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Either one of those, since cell phone might be a shorter, well, then again, I don't know. Maybe it won't be a shorter conversation, maybe. But we'll attach it to one of those two. Thank you, sir, for that.
You're welcome.
And I believe September was the month that technology was wanting to have some conversation for various reasons related to the model that they're using for this calendar year. Thank you. And that concludes the superintendent's report. Can I say though, Mr. Williams and the videos, the whole team does the videos, but really Mr. Williams is the videographer that actually puts it together, puts it out there. He's such a humble person.
Yes.
You have done an excellent job.
Makes me look good. So I think it's on to board member comments. And so as we do most of the time, we will start with my esteemed colleague, Dr. Bonebrake. He just has to use the microphone.
At the DCAC meeting, I was glad to meet your better 2/3 again.
I told her you called her overweight by saying this.
Never mind. But I won't add any word salad in trying to get one of our shorter meetings of the year. Nothing more to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bonebrake. Dr. Beeson.
I don't have anything to say about your wife. But that she's very nice. I don't have a whole lot to report. Health Insurance Committee will meet next week. Equity Council, end of the month, if we're still allowed to call it that. We are in good hands with Mr. Edwards, and I appreciate his legislative updates. A lot of scary things for public schools happening in the State House and nationally. But Dr. Bonebrake, there are 2 bills banning cell phones in schools. So I just wanted you to know that those are floating around if you want to be a proponent and give testimony. Just let's all pay attention. That's all I've got, I guess.
Thank you, Dr. Beeson. Ms. Boley?
We did have technology meeting since our last board meeting, and there were a few important things there. I don't know if all of our board members have taken the technology, let me call it the right.
No, before. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, taking the time to take that. It's really tied into our insurance in case we do have a problem with our system, that everybody is trained. I'm hoping everybody is doing that. If there's staff members out there that haven't taken the time, and it does take time. It took me a lot of time to take the whole assessment. Also, there was a concern about the time. How will we tie that in to allow staff to have that time to do that? And our staff that may not be fluent in English and technology, and how are we going to take care of that? So that's very important. If you haven't done that, please do that. We will also be bringing on Windows 11. And Windows 11 is going to take a little bit of time to implement. So we're asking patience across the district as we do come around to implementing that. It's in our future, but giving you a warning now. And we're working on parking lot security cameras. So stay out of our parking lots. If you're into anything bad, get out of there, because we will have you on film. Any comments? Have all of you taken time to look at the Fine Arts newsletter that comes out every month? It is beautiful, and it highlights our students in so many ways. So if you're not taking time to look at that newsletter, Fine Arts newsletter, please do. We have so many successful students happening in that area. That's out of Topeka High, but I think it's also district-wide. Yeah, I know a lot of Topeka High kids are highlighted. Topeka High also had the Scholar Bowl Centennial League Championship. That is really big news. That takes a lot of hard work, and they did a really nice job and won the Centennial League. Head Start, one of the things we have a report on here, there's a report in there about a tool that Head Start uses called Class to evaluate their teachers. And we are above average in 8 out of the 10 domains. And they have goals on the other ones that their instructional coach will be working on. So we hope to get above the national average on that as well. But our teachers, and that's also at Pine Ridge, I believe, we use the same tool, and we're just really building that expectation for them. Also, I wanted to thank the board for having lofty goals for our district. We have some nice lofty goals. Dr. Anderson, thank you for doing the heavy lifting for us to create achievement though in those areas. And I thank the board for coming up with goals that are really directed at our students and our staff and our leadership. So have a great week.
Thank you, Ms. Boley. Mr. Tatum.
Go Chiefs indeed. I'm saying it now in case somebody forgets to say it before we're done. I actually don't have anything to share. I haven't attended any committees. There was a policy committee, not this past Monday, but the Monday before, but I was at a work trip in Wichita, so did not get to participate. So maybe one of my other colleagues a little farther down can enlighten everybody. But I don't think I have anything else, so I'm going to keep my comments pretty short and sweet tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Tatum. Mr. Munoz.
Yeah, we did have policy committee on the 27th. We had a visit by Mr. Reinhardt who talked to us about a couple of reports. And I think it highlighted for me, and I think I'm sure for my colleagues as well, that our policies tend to stay, once we've written them, they tend to stay the way they are. And one thing that doesn't stay static is technology. And so we really have a lot of work to do to sort of make sure that our policy reflects the ever-changing nature of technology. So there's it's going to be long-term. There's a lot of it that is a lot of heavy lifting. So just look forward to that in the future. Some things that need immediate attention and a couple of things that are far off and will take some time to do. And that's all I can remember from policy. And I think I've been to some honor roll programs mid-year. I think we went to that.
Yep.
And yep. And there's a spelling bee on Saturday, I think. So if you are up on a Saturday and interested in seeing kids do some amazing work, I've seen the work that goes into trying to be a spelling. What do you call that person? A speller?
A
Speller, I guess,
yeah.
just a regular speller. Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of work. So going there, if you have some extra time, celebrating our students and their hard work might be a great way to sort of start off your weekend. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Ms. Schmidt.
All right, I like this spot. Everybody covers all the committee meetings by the time it gets to me. One thing we did not cover was the board had a retreat. And I want to thank staff for coming in and taking time out of your Saturday. I know that's hard when you work 5 days a week. And I know it's hard for us board members too, when this is kind of a second gig. But it's a great opportunity for us to get together in a slightly less formal environment to have some conversation. And I think it takes a beautiful mind to love math and numbers. So thank you to Mr. Minky and all his staff to come make a really dry subject. It was a lot of fun. I think we had a lot of laughs. I took like 3 pages of notes. And I really think in all seriousness, it's something as board members, there are 3 finite resources and it's people, time, and money. And so as one of those finite resources, I think it's something that as board members, we really need to be delving into probably a little bit more, not to be micromanagers. Don't get me wrong. We don't want to micromanage our staff. We trust them, but to make sure that we have a good picture and a good understanding of what our district snapshot looks like, so that if things do come down the pike and we don't get as much money or we don't have student enrollments dropping, and so, that means we have less money coming in, that we don't need so much lead time to figure out what's going on and where we might be able to chuck and jive to make everything work. So just thank you to everybody for that time. I appreciate those opportunities.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt. I think our definition of fun is different, but anytime with Mr. Minky that I get is fun. In front of all you is the committee assignments. These are, I'll be looking at these. Anything that's highlighted is subject to change. And so I will reach out to each of you individually just so we can make sure that everybody's happy in their positions and that the needs of the district and the needs of the board are being met. I did, with Ms. Boley and Mr. Munoz, attend the mid-year graduations. That was a great celebration of students and families and staff that put a lot of work into it. On Saturday, I will be at the Harvesters, the Jardine Harvesters Mobile Food Pantry. And so if anybody ever wants to join the Schumachers on a Saturday morning, the second Saturday of each month, we are generally there. And then theater, so not before next board meeting, but at the end of this month, Topeka West is putting on Little Shop of Horrors. So I think a lot of us were at Chicago, their musical they did last year. And they will be doing that on the 20th through the 22nd. So we have that in our calendar already at our family. And I think that's all that I have. So I will look for,
Dr. Schumacher?
yes,
I
Ms.
think
Bully.
we could congratulate
Yes,
Dr. Anderson on our publication. Thank you for representing our district as you do. And, this is a national magazine,
Yep.
so thank you for sharing all the good things we're doing in our district.
thank you, Ms. Bully. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I just need a motion to adjourn.
I have that motion. I move the meeting adjourned.
And a second from Ms. Bully. And a raise of hands. Great, thank you.
Unanimous.
Meeting adjourned.